Got it white every check mark. Here's a strong, suspenseful hook plus natural CTA in English for your police dog refuses to enter the house story. This is designed for a YouTube intro voiceover to instantly grab attention and keep viewers engaged until the end. Hashtag microphone strong hook plus CTA. /hook, asterisk a police K9, trained to face armed criminals without fear, suddenly froze at the doorstep of a quiet suburban home, refusing to go inside. What was waiting beyond that door terrified even the bravest officers, and what they found inside still raises questions no one can answer. Asterisk, /a, placed right where suspense begins. And if you want to hear the full chilling truth of what happened in that house, and more stories that will keep you awake at night, make sure you subscribe right now, and drop your ideas in the comments for the next tale we should uncover. Here's a full cinematic YouTube voiceover script for your true crime/paranormal story. The police dog refuses to enter the house, written to grip, build suspense, and keep viewers watching till the last second. Hashtag movie camera script. The police dog refuses to enter the house. /hook. They brought in the best trained K9 on the force. But when the dog reached the front door, it froze, whining, pulling away, refusing to enter. /suspenseful setup. The officers thought it was strange. This animal had faced armed suspects, tracked fugitives through the woods, and never hesitated once. But this house? Something was different, and what the police discovered inside would haunt them forever. /build up. It started as a routine welfare check. A quiet suburban street. No one had seen the homeowner for days. Mail piled up, lights left on, curtains drawn shut. When officers knocked, silence. When they tried the door, it was unlocked. But instead of stepping in, they called for backup, and that's when the K9 unit arrived. The dog padded forward confidently, muscles tense, ears alert. Then, just feet from the threshold, it stopped, its body stiffened, its tail dropped, and it began to growl low and steady. The handler urged it forward, but the animal pulled back, whining, refusing to cross that doorway. And that's when every officer on the scene felt it too, an unexplainable chill in the air. /mid-story CTA. If you're hooked already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss more chilling stories like this. /main climax. Finally, 2 officers entered without the dog. The air inside was heavy, stale, suffocating. Furniture untouched. A TV still glowing in the corner. But the house was wrong. Room by room, they searched until one of them opened the basement door. The stench hit first, sharp, unmistakable. Then the sound, a faint creak, as though someone else was down there. When their flashlights cut through the darkness, they froze. Because at the bottom of those stairs, /cliffhanger, something was waiting. Something the dog had sensed long before they did. To be continued. Perfect. Let's dive straight into part 2 of The Police Dog Refuses to Enter the House. This continuation keeps the same cinematic, suspense-driven style and builds toward a chilling reveal. Hashtag movie camera script. The police dog refuses to enter the house, part 2. /hook recap. At the bottom of those stairs, the officers saw something the police dog had already sensed. Something that didn't want to be found. /suspenseful setup. Their flashlights shook as they tried to focus. The smell of rot clung to their throats. And in that silence, a single floorboard creaked, as though someone was shifting in the shadows. One officer whispered, *, is someone down there? *, no reply, but the darkness itself seemed to breathe. /build up. Step by step, they descended. The basement was unfinished, walls damp, pipes dripping. And then they saw it. A chair, old, wooden, placed in the center of the room. On it, duct tape dangling, ropes frayed, as if someone had struggled to get free. And on the floor, a trail of deep scratches. Claw marks? Fingernails? No one could tell, but they led to a corner. A place where the shadows refused to lift, no matter how bright their flashlights burned. The K9, still outside, barked furiously now, desperate warning, refusing to stop. /mid-story CTA. If this has you on edge, hit subscribe right now, because the story's only getting darker. Main climax. One officer gathered his courage and stepped closer to that corner. And that's when they found her. A woman, motionless, eyes wide open, her skin pale, her lips bruised, her body frozen in a seated position against the wall. At first, they thought she was dead, but when the beam of light hit her face, her eyes blinked. She was alive, barely, and the words that slipped out her cracked lips would send chills through every officer in that basement. Asterisk, he's still here. Asterisk. Cliffhanger. The police spun around, guns raised, scanning every shadow. Because if she was telling the truth, then the man who had done this was still inside the house with them. To be continued. Got it. Here's part 3 of The Police Dog Refuses to Enter the House. I'll keep the suspense cinematic and push the story toward a terrifying confrontation. #movie camera script. The Police Dog Refuses to Enter the House, Part 3. /hook recap. The woman's words echoed in the basement. Asterisk, he's still here. Asterisk. And instantly, every officer realized they weren't alone. Suspenseful setup. The air tightened. Their flashlights swept across cracked concrete walls and rusted pipes. But in the silence, another sound emerged, a faint shuffle, somewhere upstairs. The K9's barking turned frantic, claws scraping against the front porch. It wasn't just a warning anymore. It was desperation. Build up. 2 officers rushed to help the woman, but she weakly grabbed one of their arms, shaking her head. No, don't, he's waiting. At that moment, a sudden crash exploded above them. Something heavy had fallen. Or someone. The officers scrambled back up the stairs, guns drawn. The house, once silent, now groaned with movement. Footsteps. Quick, uneven, pacing. But the strangest part? The sound didn't come from one place. It came from everywhere. /mid-story CTA. If this story has you gripping your seat, hit subscribe now, because what happens next is beyond chilling. Main climax. The lead officer shouted, "Police, show yourself." No answer, only the creak of floorboards above. Then, without warning, the hallway light flickered. Once, twice, and went out. The house sank into darkness. Only the thin beams of their flashlights cut through. And in that beam at the top of the stairs, a figure stood, tall, motionless, watching. But as soon as the light touched its face, the figure vanished. The dog outside howled, as though it had seen the same thing. Cliffhanger. The officers realized something horrifying. Whatever was inside that house wasn't just hiding. It was hunting. To be continued. Perfect. Here comes part 4 of The Police Dog Refuses to Enter the House. This time, I'll lean into the full paranormal twist you hinted at. The thing inside isn't human. #movie camera script. The Police Dog Refuses to Enter the House. Part 4. /hook recap. At the top of the stairs, they saw a figure, and in a flash of light, it vanished. Suspenseful setup. The officers froze. Their radios crackled with static. The house groaned as though alive, settling under their feet. One whispered, "No one's up there, right?" But the others knew what they had seen. It wasn't a trick of the light. It wasn't their imagination. The woman in the basement. Her voice rose again, trembling. Asterisk. He doesn't like the light. Don't let him touch you. Asterisk. Build up. The officers slowly climbed the staircase, every step screaming against the wood. Their flashlights scanned doorways, empty rooms, shadows stretching too long across the walls. Then one door slammed shut on its own, so hard the frame cracked. The dog outside began to wail, not barking, howling, like it was morning. The lead officer kicked the door open. Inside, a child's bedroom, the wallpaper peeling, toys scattered, and scrawled across the wall in dark, uneven letters. Asterisk, he's still here. Asterisk, the same words a woman had whispered. /mid-story CTA. If this is giving you chills, make sure to subscribe, because these stories only get darker from here. /main climax. Suddenly, every flashlight flickered. For a split second, the room went black. And when the lights came back, something stood in the corner. Its body was twisted, bent at impossible angles, its face blurred, like the light refused to touch it. It didn't move. It only stared. The officers raised their weapons, but the woman's scream echoed from below. Asterisk, don't shoot. It makes him stronger. Asterisk. Before they could react, the figure lunged, not at them, but straight into the light. And as it did, the entire house shook, like the walls themselves were screaming. /cliffhanger. One officer dropped his flashlight. The beam spun across the floor, and when it hit the hallway, something new appeared. A trail of wet footprints, leading deeper into the house. And every single one of them was fresh. To be continued. All right, here's part 5 where the police dog refuses to enter the house. This chapter drives toward a terrifying showdown and peels back the mystery of the house. #movie camera script. The police dog refuses to enter the house, part 5. /hook recap. The flashlight spun across the floor, and there it was, a trail of wet footprints leading deeper into the house. /suspenseful setup. The officers followed, guns trembling in their hands. Every print was heavy, deliberate, and the closer they got, the colder the air became. Then they noticed something strange. The footprints weren't barefoot. They weren't boots. They looked animal, but too large, too distorted. The K9 outside still howled, refusing to cross the threshold. It knew. /build up. The trail ended at a locked door near the back of the house. An officer forced it open with his shoulder. Inside, a study, dust thick on every surface. Books toppled, paper scattered, a desk overturned. And on the wall, framed photographs, each one of the same man. Sharp eyes, cold smile, the former owner of the house. But here's the part that made their blood run cold. In every photo, someone had scratched out his face. Deep gouges across the glass, as if done in pure rage. And then they heard it, breathing, from inside the closet. /mid-story CTA. If you're still watching with your heart racing, subscribe now. You don't want to miss how this ends. /main climax. The lead officer swung the closet door open. Empty, but on the inside of the door, more writing. This time carved, not painted. Over and over again, one phrase. Asterisk, you let him in. Asterisk. Suddenly, the lights died. Pitch black. The house groaned like it was collapsing in on itself. And from the darkness, a voice. Not human. Low. Broken. It whispered right in their ears. Asterisk, leave her. Or stay with me forever. Asterisk. The woman in the basement began screaming again. But this time, it wasn't just fear. It was warning. /cliffhanger. Because whatever was inside that house didn't want them to save her. And it was about to show them why. To be continued. All right, here's part 5 where the police dog refuses to enter the house. This chapter drives toward a terrifying showdown and peels back the mystery of the house. #movie camera script. The police dog refuses to enter the house. Part 5. /hook recap. The flashlight spun across the floor, and there it was, a trail of wet footprints leading deeper into the house. /suspenseful setup. The officers followed, guns trembling in their hands. Every print was heavy, deliberate, and the closer they got, the colder the air became. Then they noticed something strange. The footprints weren't barefoot. They weren't boots. They looked animal, but too large, too distorted. The K9 outside still howled, refusing to cross the threshold. It knew. /build up. The trail ended at a locked door near the back of the house. An officer forced it open with his shoulder. Inside, a study, dust thick on every surface. Books toppled, paper scattered, a desk overturned. And on the wall, framed photographs, each one of the same man. Sharp eyes, cold smile, the former owner of the house. But here's the part that made their blood run cold. In every photo, someone had scratched out his face, deep gouges across the glass, as if done in pure rage. And then they heard it, breathing, from inside the closet. /mid-story CTA. If you're still watching with your heart racing, subscribe now. You don't want to miss how this ends. /main climax. The lead officer swung the closet door open, empty, but on the inside of the door, more writing. This time carved, not painted. Over and over again one phrase. Asterisk, you let him in. Asterisk. Suddenly, the lights died. Pitch black. The house groaned like it was collapsing in on itself. And from the darkness, a voice, not human, low, broken. It whispered right in their ears. Asterisk, leave her, or stay with me forever. Asterisk, the woman in the basement began screaming again. But this time it wasn't just fear. It was warning. /cliffhanger. Because whatever was inside that house didn't want them to save her. And it was about to show them why. To be continued. Perfect. Let's push this into part 6 of The Police Dog Refuses to Enter the House. This time we'll go full paranormal showdown, revealing what the entity really is. #movie camera script. The police dog refuses to enter the house. Part 6. /hook recap. The voice from the dark whispered. Asterisk, leave her, or stay with me forever. Asterisk. And in that moment, the officers realized they weren't just dealing with a presence. They were trapped inside it. /suspenseful setup. The walls seemed to breathe. The air grew so thick it hurt to inhale. One officer shouted into the black, "Show yourself!" And the voice answered, not from one place, but from everywhere. Asterisk, you let me in and you will never let me out. Asterisk, /build up. Suddenly, every flashlight flickered back on at once, and what they saw nearly stopped their hearts. The photographs on the wall had changed. The scratched-out faces, they were whole again. Only now, the man in the photos wasn't alone. He was standing beside them, smiling, as though they had always belonged in his house. The officers spun around, searching, and that's when they saw him, a figure crawling from the corner of the ceiling, limbs bending backward, head tilted unnaturally, teeth bared in a grin too wide to be human. /mid-story CTA. If your skin's crawling right now, hit subscribe, because this nightmare is just reaching its peak. /main climax. The thing dropped to the floor with a sickening crack. It stood upright, bones twisting into place, and began to walk toward them. Each step echoed like thunder. The woman's scream rose from the basement, echoing up the stairs. Asterisk, he feeds on fear. Don't look at him. Asterisk, but it was too late. One officer's light froze on the figure's face. His body went rigid. The beam fell, clattering to the ground. The others shouted his name, shaking him, but his eyes were blank, empty. The entity had taken him. And then, every door in the house slammed shut, one by one, sealing them all inside. /cliffhanger. The remaining officers realized the truth. The house wasn't haunted. The house was a prison, and the thing inside was its warden. Got it. Here's part 7 of The Police Dog Refuses to Enter the House. This chapter drives toward a final escape attempt, keeping it terrifying and cinematic. #movie camera script. The police dog refuses to enter the house. Part 7. /hook recap. Every door in the house slammed shut. The entity had taken one officer already, and now the rest were trapped. /suspenseful setup. The remaining officers huddled together, breathing hard. The walls pulsed, groaning like they were alive. From the corner, the taken officer stood motionless, his empty eyes fixed on them. The woman in the basement screamed again, her voice raw. Asterisk, don't fight the house. Find the door that doesn't belong. Asterisk, but what did that mean? Every door was locked, every window sealed tight, and with each second, The figure crept closer, dragging its limbs across the floor like broken branches. Build up. The lead officer barked orders. Stay calm. Stay together. But calm wasn't possible anymore. The dog outside scratched violently at the front door, howling louder than ever. The officers realized something. The dog wasn't trying to get in. It was trying to guide them out. They swept their flashlights across the hallway, desperate for anything unusual. That's when one officer noticed it. A door at the end of the corridor. It hadn't been there before. The knob was old, rusted, dripping with moisture, and carved above it 2 words. Asterisk, no exit. Asterisk, /mid-story CTA. If your heart's pounding right now, subscribe, because the ending will stay with you long after the video's done. /main climax. The entity shrieked. The sound split in their ears, shaking the walls. It knew they'd seen the door. It lunged forward, faster than before, its twisted body snapping and jerking with every step. The officers fired, rounds echoing through the house. But the bullets passed through, tearing holes in the walls instead. The figure only laughed, a distorted, broken sound. With no choice left, they sprinted for the strange door. The handle was ice cold, almost burning to touch. They shoved it open, and on the other side, not outside, not safety, but a staircase, leading straight down into the dark. /cliffhanger. Behind them, the entity screamed in rage. In front of them, the stairs seemed endless, swallowing the light hole. They had only 2 choices left. Stay in the house with it, or step into the darkness below. To be continued. Here we go. Part 8 of The Police Dog refuses to enter the house. This one will take us down the stairs, into the very heart of the haunting. #movie camera script. The Police Dog refuses to enter the house. Part 8. /hook recap. The officers stood at the threshold. Behind them, the entity screamed. In front of them, an endless staircase vanishing into black. /suspenseful setup. They didn't have time to think. The house shook violently, ceiling plaster falling like ash. So they made their choice. One by one, they stepped into the stairwell. The door slammed shut behind them, and the screaming above stopped. Silence, except the sound of their own boots echoing downward. Build up. The stairs twisted, spiraling, the air growing colder with every step. Their flashlights struggled to push through the dark. Beams swallowed whole. Minutes passed, then longer, and still no bottom. Panic set in. They weren't in the house anymore. They were somewhere else. Finally, their lights caught something. A floor, a room. They stepped off the staircase and froze, because they were standing in another version of the house. Same rooms, same furniture, but older, rotting, like they had gone back in time. /mid-story CTA. If this descent is pulling you deeper, hit subscribe, because the truth of this house is about to be revealed. /main climax. They moved to the decayed copy of the house, the air thick with dust and mold. Every surface was etched with claw marks, every mirror shattered. And then they found it, a door chained shut, rattling as though something inside was trying to get out. One officer whispered, "This is where it started." But before anyone could stop him, he broke the chain. The door swung open, and what was inside wasn't human. A figure sat slumped in a chair, rotting, skin stretched over bone. A man in old clothes, his head lifted, jaw cracking as if it hadn't moved in decades. And in a voice that wasn't his own, he hissed, "Asterisk, you let me in, now let me out." Asterisk. /cliffhanger. The officers realized the horrifying truth. The entity wasn't bound to the house. It was bound to him. And by opening that door, they had set it free, to be continued. Perfect. Here's part 9 of The Police Dog refuses to enter the house. I'll start slowly moving toward the ending arc, raising tension, but also beginning to close threads. #movie camera script. The Police Dog refuses to enter the house. Part 9. /hook recap. They had opened the chain door, and the rotting man inside lifted his head. The voice that came out was not his own. Asterisk, you let me in, now let me out. Asterisk, backslash, suspenseful setup. The officers staggered back, guns raised, but deep down, they knew bullets wouldn't matter here. The body twitched, bones cracking as the thing inside it stretched, testing its cage. The woman's screams from above echoed faintly through the walls. Asterisk, close it. Don't let him leave. Asterisk, but it was too late. The chains on the wall split apart one by one, snapping like brittle twigs. And with each break, the house shook harder. Backslash build up. The corpse rose from the chair, stiff at first, then jerking to life as though pulled by invisible strings. Its eyes were hollow, glowing faintly, and when it opened its mouth, every officer heard 1,000 voices at once. Voices of the missing, of the dead, of everyone the house had ever taken. One officer whispered, "God help us." The figure smiled, lips splitting wider than human skin should allow, and it stepped forward. The dog outside went silent, not barking, not howling, just silent. Backslash mid-story CTA. If you're still watching, subscribe now, because the ending to the story is crawling closer. Backslash main climax. The lights in the ruined house all flickered on at once, flooding the room in a sickly yellow glow. And now the officers saw the truth. The walls weren't covered in cracks or scratches. They were covered in hands. Hundreds of them, pressed out from the inside, pushing, reaching, every victim, every soul, still trapped in the house's skin. The entity spread its arms wide, almost mocking, and in that moment the officers realized they hadn't freed it. They had only given it a new body. Backslash cliffhanger. The figure's smile grew as the walls began to pulse, bleeding, the house itself waking up around them. The exit was gone. The staircase was gone. There was only the house, and the thing that ruled it, to be continued. Perfect. Here's the final episode/ending of The Police Dog Refuses to Enter the House. I'll close it with cinematic, haunting finish that ties everything together and lingers in the viewer's mind. Hashtag movie camera script. The police dog refuses to enter the house. The ending. Backslash hook recap. The house was alive. The walls pulsed with trapped souls. And the entity, freed from its prison, stood before the officers, wearing a body that was no longer human. Backslash suspenseful setup. The officers fired. The bullets tore through its frame. But every wound only made the thing smile wider. Behind them, the woman's voice carried through the dark. Asterisk, don't fight him, starve him. He feeds on fear. Asterisk, but how do you starve fear when terror is all you have left? Backslash build up. The entity advanced, dragging its twisted limbs across the floor. Its shadows stretched unnaturally, covering the walls, swallowing the officers whole. One officer broke, screamed, and in that instant, the creature grew taller, stronger, feeding. The lead officer understood. If fear gave it life, then courage was the only weapon left. He lowered his gun, his voice steady, even as his hands shook. You don't control me. The others followed, one by one, standing firm, silent, unmoving, and for the first time, the entity faltered. Backslash main climax. It shrieked, a howl that rattled the bones in their bodies. The walls buckled, the hands inside the plaster clawing wildly. The floor split open, darkness spilling out like liquid. The house was unraveling. The officers grabbed the woman, carrying her toward the front. The dog, still outside, barked furiously, guiding them. And just as the entity lunged for them, the front door burst open. Blinding light flooded in. They crossed the threshold, and the house collapsed behind them. Backslash resolution. When they turned back, there was nothing left. No house, no basement, only an empty lot, silent under the night sky. The woman, weak but alive, whispered, Asterisk, you didn't defeat him. You only locked him out for now. Asterisk, the dog whimpered, pressing against his handler, eyes still fixed on where the house had stood, as though it knew, one day, that door would open again. Backslash, ending line/outro. And to this day, The officers never speak of what they saw inside, because deep down they know it's not over. It's only waiting.